All right then, everybody, we'll get started. For those of you watching at home, if you have yoga props, then great. If not, then you might like to just grab a few pillows and cushions and blankets and whatever you have to hand. We'll start off in constructive resting pose. So coming to lie down on your back with your knees bent, soles of your feet on the floor, about hip width distance. Knees could be resting against one another, or maybe they're also hip width distance. You might like to wriggle your hips a bit. You might like to wriggle your shoulder blades. You might like to turn your head from side to side. And then just tucking your chin down towards your chest, finding length on the back of your neck. And then bringing your hands to rest wherever feels good for you. Closing your eyes if you're happy to do so. And just allowing your body to soften down. Taking a moment to arrive in the space. Taking a moment to notice how you're feeling, and that might be emotionally or energetically or mentally. Noticing how you feel physically. There might be some strong sensations that are immediately catching your attention. Maybe you scan your body looking for any other more subtle sensations or qualities or textures or whatever it might be. Maybe you notice the different parts of your body that are in contact with the ground beneath you. Maybe you notice how the air feels against your skin. Maybe you notice what you can feel beneath your fingertips. Maybe you notice the tip of your tongue resting against your teeth or the roof of your mouth. Maybe you notice if you're holding any tension in your facial muscles or your shoulders or the palms of your hands or anywhere else, and just seeing if you can start to let it go. And then bringing your awareness to your breath and just seeing if you can tune into the natural rhythm of your breath. Maybe you notice where you feel your breath the most. Maybe you notice any qualities or sensations associated with the breath. Perhaps you can feel the coolness of the breath on your nostrils as you breathe in, and the warmth of the breath on your upper lip as you breathe out. And then seeing if you can just gently start to lengthen your breath, lengthening your inhales and lengthening your exhales. And as you do so, noticing what happens for you. Is it easy to lengthen your breath? Is it challenging? Does your breath move into a different part of your body? Are there any new sensations or new qualities to the breath? And there are no wrong answers. It's just noticing what happens for you. And then when you're ready, picking up your arms, crossing your arms, taking hold of opposite elbows, bringing your forearms down to rest on your rib cage, inhaling, reaching your elbows up towards the ceiling, and then drawing your arms overhead. Maybe your forearms come all the way down to the floor above the crown of your head, or maybe they don't. And then exhaling, drawing your elbows back up towards the ceiling and back down towards your ribs. Inhaling, reaching your arms up overhead. And exhaling to draw them back down. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. Maybe notice any stretches or sensations, even if they're very, very subtle. And on your next exhale, releasing your arms, either bringing them out wide in a T shape or bringing them overhead, bending your elbows and resting one hand on top of the other, and then just gently windscreen wipering your legs, drawing both knees down towards the floor in one direction, bringing them back up to center, and then drawing them down towards the floor in the other direction. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. Maybe your knees come all of the way down to the floor, maybe a little bit of the way down or anywhere in between. Maybe you go quite slow or quite fast. And when you're ready, coming back up to center, releasing your arms down, bringing your palms to face down with your fingertips close to your heels, bringing your knees to hip width distance. If they aren't already, we're going to move towards a rolling bridge pose, but starting off with a very gentle arching and flattening of the spine. So to begin with, without lifting your hips away from the floor, rolling your tailbone slightly up towards the ceiling, seeing if you can feel your spine flattening against the ground, and then rolling your tailbone down, seeing if you can feel your spine arching away from the floor, rolling your tailbone up to flatten, and rolling your tailbone down to arch. Keep going for a few moments, and if you're not sure what I mean, then you're just rocking your pelvis up and down on the ground beneath you. Maybe you stay as you are, or maybe the next time you roll your tailbone up, your hips float away from the floor by a few centimeters or a few inches, and then you roll your hips back down again, finding an arching in your spine, rolling your tailbone up. Maybe your hips lift away from the floor, rolling your tailbone down, feeling your spine arching away from the floor. Keep going for a few moments. You might find that each time you lift your hips up, they come a little bit higher up, or maybe not. And the next time you have your hips on the floor, pausing there, hugging your knees in towards your chest. You might like to bring one hand to each knee and then just gently circle your knees in one direction. And the other. And then coming back to center, either rolling onto one side and lifting yourself up, or crossing your ankles, bringing your hands behind your thighs and rocking up and down your spine a few times. And then at some point, just lifting yourself up to seated, finding any comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. You might like to sit up on a bolster or a blanket. You might like to be cross-legged or kneeling. Maybe you gently rock from side to side, just for a moment, feeling your sitting bones connecting to the ground beneath you. And then seeing if you can find a nice long spine, just allowing your shoulders to soften down. Tucking your chin down towards your chest and gently circling your neck a few times in one direction. And the other. Coming back to center, rolling your shoulders backwards. And forwards. Releasing them down and just giving them a bit of a shake. And then picking up your hands and circling your wrists in one direction. And the other. And then just giving them a bit of a shake from side to side and maybe forwards and backwards, and releasing them down. Bringing your left hand to the floor, close to your left hip, sweeping your right hand up towards the ceiling. And on an exhale, taking a gentle bend towards the left side of the room. Inhaling, windmilling your arms, right hand comes down, left hand comes up, and exhaling to reach over to the right. Inhaling to swap your arms, exhaling to reach over to the left. Inhaling to swap your arms and exhaling to the right. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm, seeing if you can really start to tune into your body and find a way to move that feels good for you. That might mean that it's a smaller, more subtle movement. It might mean that it's larger and more exaggerated. And when you're ready, coming back to center and releasing your arms down, bringing your right hand to your right knee, picking up your left hand, sweeping your arm up overhead. So you're drawing an arch overhead, fingertips come down to the floor behind you, rolling your shoulder backwards and then inhaling to lengthen through your spine. Maybe you imagine that somebody's just gently pulling on a string attached to the top of your head, and on an exhale, moving into the twist. You might like to turn your head to look behind you, and you might like to move your hand over to your other knee. Coming back to center when you're ready, bringing your left hand to your left knee, picking up your right hand, sweeping your arm up overhead, fingertips come down, rolling your shoulder backwards, and then again, inhaling to lengthen through your spine and exhaling to move into the twist. Coming back to center when you're ready, bringing one hand to each knee. We're going to take a spinal flex, inhaling, drawing your torso forward, arching your spine, lifting your chin up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling, drawing your torso back, curving your spine, tucking your chin down towards your chest, inhaling to come forwards and arch, and exhaling to come back and curve. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. You might like to close your eyes or just soften your gaze, seeing if you can turn your attention inward, seeing if you can find a way to move that feels good for you. Maybe you see if you can have a little smile on your face, just helping to signal to your nervous system that everything's okay, that you're safe. And when you're ready, coming back to center, taking your Sufi grind, inhaling, drawing your ribs over to one side, circling your torso forward, arching your spine, lifting your chin up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling, drawing your ribs over to the other side, circling your torso back, curving your spine, tucking your chin down towards your chest, inhaling to circle forwards and arch, and exhaling to circle back and curve. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. Again, you might like to close your eyes or just soften your gaze, seeing if you can turn your attention inwards, seeing if you can find a way to move that feels good for you. Changing direction when you're ready. And making your way back up to center. Whenever you're ready, uncrossing your legs, straightening your legs out in front of you, having a nice gap between your heels, and then circling your ankles in one direction and the other. And then coming back to center, bringing one hand to each thigh, sliding whichever hand you fancy down the same leg, turning your head to look over your opposite shoulder, and then coming through center, sliding your other hand down your other leg, and again, turning your head to look over your shoulder. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. Maybe your hand comes all the way down to your foot, but it doesn't have to. Just seeing if you can encourage these soft tissues on the backs of your legs and in your lower back to soften and release, but not forcing your body into a stretch. And when you're ready, coming back up to center, sliding both hands down both legs, just allowing your hands to settle wherever feels good for you. It could be somewhere on your shins, or it could be hooking your big toes, allowing your torso to soften forwards, tucking your chin down towards your chest, and then inhaling, lengthening your spine, lifting your chin up towards the ceiling. You might find your hands traveling up your shins here, and then exhaling to soften forwards and fold. Inhaling to lengthen. And exhaling to fold. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. And when you're ready, coming back up to center, bringing your feet nice and wide, or just as wide as feels good for you. If you feel like your pelvis is rocking back or tilting back here, you might like to sit up on the edge of a folded blanket. And then when you're ready, bringing your fingertips to the floor, either side of your hips, inhaling, sweeping your hands up towards the ceiling, maybe look up to joined palms, and then exhaling, twisting towards your left leg, sliding your hands down your leg just as far as feels good for you. And then inhaling to come back up to center, and exhaling, twisting to the right. Inhaling to center, exhaling, twisting to the left. Inhaling to center, and exhaling to the right. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. As always, tuning into your body and moving in a way that feels good for you. That might mean that it looks a bit differently, and that's just fine. And when you're ready, coming back up to center and releasing your arms down, using your hands behind your legs to bend your legs, swinging your legs behind you, making your way to your tabletop position. You might like to place a folded blanket on the floor underneath where your knees are going to be, and then seeing if you can spread your fingers nice and wide, seeing if you can find a comfortable position for your wrists and your knees and your spine. Maybe you just gently rock your hips from side to side for a moment. And then coming back to center and taking a gentle cat-cow, inhaling, tilting your pelvis down, drawing your belly down, lifting your head to look forwards, and then exhaling, coming through center, tucking your tailbone, curving your spine, releasing your neck to look back. Inhaling to draw your belly down and look forwards, and exhaling to curve your spine and look back. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. Maybe you bring your awareness down into your pelvis, and you notice how as you tilt your pelvis down towards the floor, it initiates this arching of your spine that travels all the way up into your neck and culminates with you lifting your head to look forwards. And as you tilt your pelvis up towards the ceiling, it initiates this curving of your spine that travels all the way up into the back of your neck and culminates with you dropping your head to look back, almost as if it's happening spontaneously without any effort from you whatsoever. And when you're ready, coming back to center, straightening your right leg, tucking your toes on the floor, reaching back through your right heel, feeling a nice stretch on the back of your right leg, and then swinging your leg out to the side, having your leg straight at a right angle away from your body with the sole of your foot on the floor, picking up your right hand, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling, and then on an exhale, turning your chest to face down, sweeping your right arm underneath your left arm, inhaling to come up, and exhaling to come down. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. And on your exhale, bringing your hand down, swinging your leg behind you, bringing your knee back down, straightening your left leg, tucking your toes, reaching back through your left heel, and then swinging your leg out to the side, picking up your left hand, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling, turning your chest to face down, swooping your left arm underneath your right arm, inhaling to come up, and exhaling to come down. Keep going for a few moments in your own rhythm. And on your next exhale, bringing your hand to the floor, swinging your leg behind you, bringing your knee back down. We're going to come to a resting pose. Please feel free to take an alternative of your choice, or perhaps you'd rather come to a child's pose without using any prop to support yourself. If you're coming with me, my suggestion is to take hold of your bolster and one of your bricks, bringing your knees nice and wide, and then sliding your bolster between your thighs. So when you come to sit back, you're kneeling on the back end of your bolster, or Caroline, you might like to slide your bolster right back so you're kneeling on the front end of your bolster. And then taking hold of one of your bricks, placing your brick on the medium setting, leaving a gap between your bolster and your brick, just so you don't squish your nose here. And then finding a nice long spine, coming to drape yourself down over your props. Maybe you bring your forehead down to your brick. Hopefully you find that the whole of the front of your body is really nicely supported by your bolster. If that isn't the case, feel free to move it out of the way. And then you might like to keep your elbows bent towards you, or you might like to reach your hands towards the front of the room, bringing your forearms down to rest. Maybe you wriggle your hips from side to side. Maybe you turn the back of your head from side to side, massaging your third eye space on the floor. And then allowing your body to soften down. Seeing if you can allow your breath to be soft and gentle. And just taking a few moments here to rest. And when you're ready, pressing into your forearms, pressing into your shins, sliding your props out of the way, lifting yourself up and sliding your props out of the way, and then coming back to a kneeling position, if that feels okay for you. We're going to do our modified sun salutations today. If you want to sit them out or modify them further, please feel free to do so. If you're coming with me, starting off in a kneeling position, and then inhaling, sweeping your hands up towards the ceiling, lifting your hips up for kneel stand, and then exhaling, hips to heels, forehead towards the floor for child's pose. Inhaling, tabletop, tilting your pelvis down to look forwards, and exhaling, tucking your toes, lifting your hips up towards the ceiling, seeing if you can find a really nice, gentle downward facing dog. Maybe you bend one knee and then the other, drawing your heels down. And then exhaling, knees come back to the floor, untucking your toes, hips to heels, child's pose. Inhaling, sweeping your hands up towards the ceiling, kneel stand, and exhaling, kneel sit. Again, inhaling, sweeping your hands up, kneel stand, exhaling, hips to heels, forehead towards the floor, child's pose. Inhaling, tabletop, tilting your pelvis down to look forwards, and exhaling, tucking your toes, lifting your hips up towards the ceiling, seeing if you can find a really nice downward facing dog and just doing any wriggles or movements that would feel good for you. Exhaling, knees come to the floor, Untucking your toes, hips to heels, child's pose. Inhaling, sweeping your hands up towards the ceiling, kneel, stand. And exhaling, kneel, sit. Last round. Inhaling, sweeping your hands up, kneel, stand. Exhaling, hips to heels, forehead to the floor, child's pose. Inhaling, tabletop, tilting your pelvis down to look forwards. And exhaling, tucking your toes, lifting your hips up towards the ceiling, seeing if you can find your nice, gentle, downward facing dog. Exhaling, knees come to the floor, untucking your toes, hips to heels, child's pose. Inhaling, sweeping your hands up towards the ceiling, kneel, stand. And exhaling, kneel, sit. Making your way up to standing, however you want to come up. When you arrive up, coming to stand in your Tadasana, mountain pose, standing towards the top end of your mat with your feet either hip width distance and parallel or together with a slight gap between your heels, relaxing your shoulders down away from your ears, and then bringing your hands to your hips, inhaling, opening your chest, looking up towards the ceiling, and exhaling, folding forwards, bringing your hands to your thighs or your shins, or taking hold of your big toes, hooking them with your middle and index fingers, and then inhaling to lengthen through your spine, and exhaling to fold. For Padangusthasana, thumb to toe pose. Releasing the bind if you have it. Inhaling to come halfway up and then bringing your hands to your hips and exhaling, lifting yourself all of the way back up. Stepping back with your right foot, seeing if you can have a nice wide stance here. Heels more or less in one line, back foot turned out roughly 90 degrees, front knee bent and hips are drawing towards the right hand side of the room. Inhaling to raise your hands to shoulder level, exhaling, relaxing your shoulders down away from your ears, and then gazing over your left hand, taking a few breaths here in Virabhadrasana B, Warrior Two. Inhaling, straightening your left leg, turning your left foot in, turning your right foot out. So you're facing the back of the room, and then bending your right knee and gazing over your right hand. Again, taking a few breaths here in Virabhadrasana B, Warrior Two. Inhaling, straightening your right leg, turning your right foot in, turning your left foot out. So you're facing the front of the room again. This time, keeping your left leg straight, reaching forwards and then bringing your hand down to your thigh or down to your shin, bending your top arm just for a moment, bringing the back of your hand to your sacrum at your lower back, rolling your shoulder backwards. So you're opening your chest to the side of the room. And then maybe you keep your hand where it is, or maybe you re-extend it, looking straight ahead or looking up. For Trikonasana, triangle pose. Inhaling to come up, turning your left foot in and your right foot out. So you're facing the back of the room again. Right leg is straight, reaching forwards, bringing your hand down to your thigh or down to your shin, bending your top arm, rolling your shoulder backwards to open your chest, keeping your hand there or re-extending it, looking straight ahead or looking up for Trikonasana, triangle pose. Inhaling to come up. Last time, turning your right foot in and your left foot out, rebending your left knee, bringing your forearm down to your thigh, and then reaching your right hand up towards the ceiling. You might like to have your fingertips pointing straight up, or maybe you bring your arm overhead. And then I'm going to give 3 options for what to do with your left arm. So number 1 is to keep your left arm where it is. Number 2 is to bring your hand down to the floor inside your left foot. And number 3 is to loop your left arm underneath your left leg, bending your elbow and then sweeping your right hand behind you to take a bind at your lower back. And then rolling your shoulder backwards, opening your chest to the side of the room for Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. Releasing the bind if you have it, inhaling to come up, turning your left foot in and your right foot out, rebending your right knee, bringing your forearm down to your thigh, sweeping your left hand up towards the ceiling, again, fingertips pointing straight up or arm overhead, and then either keeping your right arm where it is, or bringing your hand down to the floor inside your right foot, or looping your right arm underneath your right leg, bending your elbow and reaching your left hand back to take a bind. For Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. Releasing the bind if you have it, inhaling to come up, bringing your hands down to your hips and then turning your right foot in so your feet are wide and parallel. Inhaling, opening your chest, looking up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling to fold forwards, bringing your hands down to the floor wherever they naturally want to come to. Inhaling to find length through your spine, and then exhaling to soften forwards. Perhaps you keep your hands where they are, or maybe you walk your hands back in line with your feet. For Prasarita Padottanasana A. Inhaling to come halfway up and then bringing your hands to your hips and exhaling, lifting yourself all of the way back up. Heel toeing your feet together until you can easily step your back foot forward, coming back to the front of your mat, stepping back with your right foot again, but this time setting up your warrior 1 feet rather than your warrior 2 feet. So you want to have a nice gap between your heels, back foot's turned out roughly 45 degrees, front knee bent and hips are drawing forwards. Inhaling, raising your hands towards the ceiling, exhaling, relaxing your shoulders down, hands nice and wide, all together in prayer, looking straight ahead or looking up. For Virabhadrasana A, warrior 1. Inhaling, straightening your front leg, releasing your hands down, and exhaling to step your right foot forwards. Stepping back with your left foot, setting up your warrior 1 feet on the other side, front knee bent, hips drawing forwards. Inhaling to raise your hands towards the ceiling, exhaling, relaxing your shoulders down, hands nice and wide, all together, looking straight ahead or looking up. For Virabhadrasana A, warrior 1. Inhaling, straightening your front leg, releasing your hands down, and exhaling to step your left foot forwards. Last time, stepping back with your right foot, setting up your warrior 1 feet again, but this time having your front leg straight, hips are drawing forwards. Maybe you bring your hands together in prayer at heart center, or maybe you bring them behind you, taking hold of opposite elbows or reverse prayer. And then inhaling, opening your chest, looking up towards the ceiling, and exhaling to fold forward. You might like to keep your hands where they are. In the traditional pose, that's what we would do, but you might prefer to release your arms, bringing your fingertips down towards the floor, either side of your front foot. For Parsvakonasana, pyramid pose. Inhaling to come up, exhaling, releasing your arms and stepping your right foot forwards, stepping back with your left leg, again, setting up your warrior 1 feet, front leg is straight, hips drawing forwards, hands come together in prayer or behind you, taking hold of opposite elbows or reverse prayer. Inhaling, opening your chest, looking up towards the ceiling, exhaling, folding forwards, keeping your hands where they are or bringing them down for Parsvakonasana, pyramid pose. Inhaling to come up, Releasing your arms and stepping your left foot forwards. Let's set up for Vrikshasana tree pose. If you'd like to come to stand close to a wall or a window ledge for support, please feel free to do so, or staying where you are. When you're ready, picking up the toes of your right foot, spreading them out wide and planting them down, fixing your gaze somewhere on the wall in front of you, gently rocking your weight from side to side for a few moments. And then when you're ready, either coming onto the ball of your left foot, turning your knee out to the side, or picking your foot up away from the floor, placing the sole of your foot on your inner right leg. Maybe your hands come together at heart center. Maybe you open your arms, hands towards the ceiling. Hands come back to center, knee comes back to center, releasing your leg and just giving yourself a bit of a shake. Coming over to the other side, picking up the toes of your left foot, spreading them out wide, planting them down, gently rocking your weight from side to side, and then either coming onto the ball of your right foot, turning your knee out, or picking your foot up away from the floor, placing the sole of your foot on your inner left leg. Maybe your hands come to heart center, or maybe you open your arms, hands towards the ceiling. Hands come back to center, knee comes back to center, releasing your leg, and again, just giving yourself a bit of a shake. Making your way back down to seated, you might like to have your various different bits and pieces close to hand, so you can just reach out and grab them if you need them. When you are ready, straightening your legs out long in front of you, seeing if you can find a nice long spine here. And then inhaling, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, floating your hands down. Maybe you bring your hands to your shins, maybe your ankles, maybe hooking your big toes, maybe using your belt around the balls of your feet and then holding on to either side of your belt. Inhaling to find length through your spine and exhaling to fold. Taking a few breaths here in Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. Releasing the bind if you have it, lifting yourself up, bending your left leg, bringing the sole of your foot close to your right thigh. Knee comes down to the floor or maybe down to a blanket or a brick. Inhaling, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, floating your hands down, just allowing them to settle wherever they naturally want to come to. Inhaling to lengthen through your spine and exhaling to fold. For Janu Shirshasana A. Head to knee pose. Inhaling to come up, bringing your knee back to center, straightening your leg out long, bending your right leg, bringing the sole of your foot close to your left thigh. Knee comes down again, maybe it comes all the way to the floor, or maybe use a blanket or a brick. Inhaling, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, floating your hands down. Inhaling to lengthen through your spine and exhaling to fold. For Janu Shirshasana A. Head to knee pose. Inhaling to come up, bringing your knee back to center, straightening your leg out long. You might like to give your knees a bit of a bounce or a bit of a shake, and then bending both legs, bringing the soles of your feet together and your knees down towards the floor on either side, finding a nice long spine here. Maybe you stay there sitting upright, or on an exhale, folding forwards just as far as feels good for you. And then you might like to tuck your chin down towards your chest. Maybe you close your eyes, seeing if you can release any tension from your forehead and your jaw. And taking a few breaths here in Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose. Inhaling to come up, bringing your knees back to center, bringing your feet out wide, setting up for Upavishta Konasana, wide-legged seated forward fold. Seeing if you can find a nice long spine here. Maybe you stay there, sitting upright, or on an exhale, walking your hands forwards. Maybe you bring your hands to the floor. Maybe you bring your forearms down to the floor, or maybe you bring your hands to your feet and you hook your big toes with your middle and index fingers. And then inhaling to find length through your spine, and exhaling to fold. Bringing your hands back to the floor, lifting yourself up, using your hands to bring your knees back to center, and then just taking a few moments there to do any little movements that would feel good for you. Perhaps you want to take a seated twist, perhaps you want to take another side bend, perhaps you want to roll your shoulders or circle your neck, just doing whatever would feel good for you. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to set up for our resting pose. So for those of you at home, using your props, whatever you have to hand to find a really comfortable position. For those of you in the studio, my suggestion is to take a chest opening pose using your bricks and your bolster. So bringing one of your bricks to the highest setting at the back of your mat, and then taking hold of your second brick, bringing this to the medium setting and placing this horizontally, leaving more or less a foot between the two, and then taking hold of your bolster, placing your bolster on top of your props. So you've made this kind of ramp effect, and then just checking that it's secure. You might need to adjust your props a little bit. And then you might like to have your folded blanket close to hand, coming to sit with your bum on the floor, close to the bottom end of your bolster, knees bent, coming to lie back down over your construction and just wriggling around for a few moments until hopefully you find yourself in a really comfortable, really supportive chest opening position. You might like to take hold of your folded blanket, placing it underneath the back of your head, or you might like to unfold your blanket, covering yourself up with it if you're feeling a bit chilly, or whatever you fancy really. And then seeing if you can find a comfortable position for your arms. Seeing if you can find a comfortable position for your legs. Maybe you keep your legs as they are. Maybe you bring the soles of your feet together and your knees out to the side for a Supta Baddha Konasana, a reclined cobbler's pose. Maybe you straighten both legs out long. Doing any adjustments or movements. If anybody needs any extra props, please give me a wave and I'll come over and bring that for you. When you're ready, closing your eyes and allowing your body to soften down. Seeing if you can soften the soles of your feet. Softening your calf muscles. Softening your thighs. Softening your hips and pelvis. Softening your belly and your ribs and your chest. Softening the tops of your shoulders. Softening your upper arms. Softening your forearms. Softening the palms of your hands. Softening the back of your scalp. Softening the crown of your head. Softening your forehead. Softening your temples. Softening each eyeball and each eyelid and your third eye space between your two eyebrows. Softening your nose and cheeks. Softening the tip of your tongue, your lips, your teeth, your jaw. Softening your whole head and your whole body. And resting here for the next couple of minutes. And bringing your awareness back to your breath. Bringing your awareness back to your body. Maybe you wriggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe you turn your head from side to side. Maybe you reach your arms above your head, stretching your hands and feet in opposite directions. Doing any other wriggles or movements that would feel good for you. And then whenever you're ready, bending your knees and just doing whatever you need to do to lift yourself up to seated. Seeing if you can find a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you, and just taking a moment to kind of reorientate yourself to being upright. We're going to finish with a couple of short breathing practices. These should be safe for everybody. The first one is called Sitali Pranayama, or it's actually a variation of it. In the traditional practice, you would stick your tongue out of your mouth, rolling your tongue like a straw, like so. Some people can't do this, and some people don't like to do it. In fact, I prefer to do the second one. So the first option is this, with your tongue rolled up, like so. The second option is to keep your tongue in your mouth and just pursing your lips, imagining that you're holding a straw between your lips, and then you're going to kind of suck the breath in through your mouth. So it will either look like this or like this. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring your tongue back into your mouth, releasing your jaw muscles and breathing out very, very gently through your nose, seeing if you can make the exhale so gentle that even it's even silent to you. So it looks something like this. Joining in whenever you're ready and just having a go and seeing what happens. You might like to close your eyes. And the idea here is that as we suck this cool breath in through our mouth, it rolls over the back of the tongue, stimulating the vagus nerve, helping to calm down the nervous system, helping to activate the resting and digesting and healing part of the nervous system. And coming back to a natural breathing pattern when you're ready. The last breathing practice that we're going to do is called Brahmari Pranayama. My suggestion is to bring your hands up with your fingertips resting on the crown of your head, and then using your thumbs to close your ears in a moment. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying. And then breathing in and out through your nose, but on the exhale, making a humming sound, and seeing if you can create enough of a vibration in your throat that you're going to, again, activate the vagus nerve, helping to really calm down the nervous system. So it looks something like this. Just allowing the exhale to go on for as long as feels good for you. We're going to do 3 rounds in your own rhythm. Don't worry about matching of anybody else. And then when you're finished, just bringing your arms down. So again, 3 rounds in and out through your nose, humming on the exhale. Releasing your arms down whenever you're finished. And then you might like to bring your hands back to heart center in prayer if you want to. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.